Musical Talk, the UK's independent musical theatre podcast, and the virtual Edinburgh Festival Fringe. Hello and welcome to another edition of Musical Talk. I'm Thos, and if you don't know that by now, what have you been doing for the last 14 years? Well, as you probably know, there's no Edinburgh Festival Fringe this year, but there is here on Musical Talk a virtual Edinburgh Festival Fringe, where we are trying to fill the gap just a little bit in a number of ways. That includes watching and reviewing Edinburgh Fringe shows, which you can watch on YouTube, Vimeo and other streaming services, catching up with performers and creatives of shows that might have come to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe this year, and broadcasting interviews from the archives, both old and new. And by new, I mean not yet already aired here on Musical Talk. And it's going to be one of those we're going to be discussing today. It was a fantastic show from the 2018 Edinburgh Festival Fringe called The Fear. And I had a marvellous time both seeing the show, which was a 5-star show, and also talking to two people who were part of a team responsible for creating the show. That's Tom Carswell and Chris Pope. Now, as I say, the show was a 5-star show. I described it as a hilarious and poignant must-see at the time, and the conversation I then had with Tom and Chris was also fantastic. There is no reason that it's not been broadcast until now, except that I simply have never had the chance, because of time constraints, to broadcast it. It has nothing to do with the quality of the conversation, because, as you'll hear very shortly, it's excellent and continually interesting and informative. I'm really delighted at last to be able to bring you this interview with Tom and Chris. But what is The Fear about? Well, it's been described as a new comedy musical by Carswell, Pearce and Pope, and is a rip-roaring pop-rock musical which takes the audience into the student house of Ash, Ferg and Sam as they struggle to cope with the ups and downs of their final year at university with drink, deadlines, distractions and a pet hamster named Arthur Schopenhauer. And it's also been described as a nostalgic ride for all those who have been through the university experience, complete with a live on-stage band. I think that sets out our stall, so why not get on to the actual product? Well, there is no reason not to. I've waited long enough and so have you, so let's finally at last hear this excellent conversation with Chris Pope and Tom Carswell about the 5-star Edinburgh Festival Fringe hit, The Fear, from 2018. Musical Talk, the UK's independent musical theatre podcast.
So I'm Tom Carswell. I'm the lyricist and co-writer of The Fear. I also play Ferg, one of the students in the show.
I'm Chris Pope and I wrote the book for The Fear.
So what we have here is two of the creatives behind the show, and a very excellent show it is. Would one of you like to try and attempt briefly to explain what the story is for people who won't have had a chance to see it?
So it revolves around 3 students over the course of their final year of university as they kind of struggle with the ups and downs of life. It focuses on all the kind of classic tropes associated with student living almost.
We did try to avoid writing cliches though, as we do feel like students writing about students it's very much done a lot around the Fringe. And
I went to Fresher, the musical by Mark Aspinall, possibly about 7 years ago now. It was very, very enjoyable, but you're right, it's not an unknown area.
Yes.
No, so we wanted to try and kind of defend students in a way, as I know we do get quite a bad press, but we did want to show that it's not as easy as some people would say.
Well, I was a student, so please, you're amongst friends. But actually, funny enough, I think your show, and the reason I'm talking to you is because I only review shows I like, and I think your show is a step change from what it first appears. I think that's its cleverness, if you don't mind me saying. It starts off, I don't think I'm breaching any confidentiality here when I say that as an audience we come in and find a number of what look to me like drunk or asleep bodies lying on a sofa in a stereotypically messy living room. You know, student fare, student life, it's not the cleanest environment. And indeed, as the show starts, in fact, I think, Fergie, you're the first one to wake up.
Yes, yes.
I'm speaking to you in your character, by the way, so see what I did there. And the first couple of songs, by the way, it's enjoyable from the start, but the first couple of songs, I think it sort of lulls its audience into thinking, oh, this is almost a review in the old-fashioned sense of what it is to be a student and some of the student tropes which are sent up or some sincerely or whatever. But then, and this is, I think, the clever part, is that some of the songs and the dialogue that we get, it's not a narrative arc by any means, but they link together. And then suddenly you see, well, what I suspect is, you know, if written down, what is supposed to happen, which is you can see people growing up at different times in that third year.
Yes.
And people can't see this, but big speech marks, real life approaches. So that, I think, is actually tremendously satisfying. And therefore, at the end of it, as an audience, I'd had an emotional journey as well as just enjoyed the tropes that were being illustrated about student life. Was that always your intention? How has this particular kind of arc of narrative come to be? And as you're both the writers, you are the people to go to, surely.
Well,
let's find out.
It did originally start as a musical that was going to be based around that one night that you see at the very beginning of the piece. It was all meant to revolve around what happened that night, and then
hangover after a birthday party, isn't it?
Basically, the hangover of the musical.
But what we found is that we kind of wanted to know more about the characters that we kind of created in that initial thing, and we thought it would be too obvious to just do that normal kind of, oh, we don't know what happened the night before. So we almost took that title, The Fear, of what is commonly known as that feeling of not knowing what happened when you wake up, and then turn it into something of actually it's more about the fear of the future is what the characters are all feeling.
So the micro of the day becomes the macro fear of the year.
Yeah.
Because that is your opening number, exactly.
Yes.
You say, isn't it? That there is that kind of, oh my God, what did I do last night? Where was I? Was anyone else with me?
Yeah.
Yes, but it's much more existential.
Well, I think it would have been too easy to kind of just write a musical and be like, the whole plot is that they're trying to work out what happened.
And as you say, it's been done.
It's been done a lot, and we kind of wanted to put a narrative to it and make these characters more likeable in a way. Yeah, and as Tom says, it's just about the fear of what comes next after uni, after you've left.
But once again, and I think this is in the writing, one of the things that makes them likeable, ironically, is their weaknesses.
Yes, that's what we quite like about them, is the fact that they're quite clearly flawed characters, and we always kind of say
we all are, we should say.
We all are. What we quite like is the fact that Michael, who comes in at the end, Chris cameos at the end, he's almost like the good guy in it. You kind of almost should feel slightly sorry for him, because the main three are quite flawed, and you can imagine that they are not totally innocent in how Michael has been left out all year.
Oh, well, yes, I feel sorry for you, if you don't mind me saying. I also have to say there's a more benevolent interpretation, which is actually the stops we make on the year through that third year of university, if it's a 3-year course, are the events when a lot of drinking or some kind of heightened emotional event has taken place, and one gets the impression that your character, Chris, is the sensible one. And so probably wouldn't have been, I mean, you can tell me this is the wrong interpretation, but this is how I chose to make it all right. Because I like the three characters, I didn't want to then go away with the taste that they'd actually been sort of semi-shunning them, one of their chums.
Well, he's the one that steals the milk, you know, he's the one that takes all the food. But yeah, we kind of...
He's not flawless, obviously.
He's not flawless, but so when we originally did the run in Manchester in March, Sam's character, who's played by Anna, she was too perfect in a way, and not a lot of people like that, because students aren't... No one's absolutely flawless, and we kind of made her too perfect to be likeable.
Yeah, when we started out, she was very much this character who was always nagging the boys to complete all their work, and then we kind of ran a few surveys between our friends and kind of got feedback on it. Yeah, who all kind of said, you know, she was too diligent. She wasn't a good enough. She wasn't a good enough match for the other two in terms of bringing a fun life to the piece. So we decided to almost turn her character upside down.
She's a dipso workaholic.
Yeah. And a lot of that came from Anna herself. Actually, we did base a lot of it on her.
But once again, you've played clever with that character, even though it's a slightly later development in the versions you've been developing. I sort of like and I've been using this word a lot this year, but pathetic ending for her, because it would be easy to make all three through their existential crisis and realisation and growing up, however one wants to look at it, they all develop in some way over the course of the year. It will be easy to have them all come out at the other end of the sausage machine, if you like, having resolved their personal issues. But she succeeds, but only up to a point, if that makes sense.
Well, I just don't think that's the case with most students. Like, you don't come out of uni, get a job, and then that's it. You're set. I mean, as recent graduates, most of my friends are still looking for jobs. I'm still looking for a job.
I was unemployed for 6 months when I left university, so this is a history. And I went to university when they were invented. Henry VIII was there. So, but seriously, it's a lifelong trope. That's yeah. But did you notice your audience seems to come because it would be easy to make your show just for young people and other students and actors up here, of course. But actually, you were drawing in people who've clearly been students 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
There were people, I'm pleased to say, older than me, with even less hair.
We do.
But it plays to all ages, that's the point.
We do like to pitch it almost like a nostalgia ride for those who have been through it. Yeah. Because I think it works for all ages, and we think it also works for all universities. Because when we originally did it in Manchester, I think we made it very Manchester-centric.
It's very specific.
And so we kind of worked hard to get rid of those kind of in-jokes and make it something that could be set anywhere in the country.
Well, there's only one place it couldn't be set, and that's Hull.
Yeah.
Because we know that's another university.
Yes. Yes.
I think we only put Hull in because it rhymed.
Yes. But that's craft.
Yes.
But yes, you said nostalgia, but actually I think, if you don't mind me saying, recognition, I think is a stronger term. But as I said at the beginning, I think there's an element of it having been elevated beyond what it might have been and what it could have been into something which is actually very good. And there's a poignancy as well. But each of the characters, if you like, come to the boil at different times during that third year. So shall we, as you're here, Tom, let's talk about the Ferg character.
Yes.
The first to wake up.
Yeah, the first one you meet, yes.
But also, in some senses, your insecurities become all the clearer, all the sooner.
Yes, almost, yeah. So he's kind of the first one that he kind of gets unpicked by the other two quite early on, in the fact that he can't stay alone for too long.
There's a cult psychology thing going on, isn't there?
Yes, definitely. His whole premise is that he's not really confident enough to work on his own, and he needs that kind of support from somewhere else, and then that's how we kind of built into the narrative of then he has to become the one to support, which we thought was a lovely development for him, because it was something that we wanted to put in was mental health, but we know that it's been massively done by student companies, so we did want to do a different turn on it, and that's how we came up with the whole view of the one supporting.
There's a nice lightness of touch in that.
Yeah.
So I mean, none of this hammers home, which is lovely.
Yeah.
Because who wants to be lectured?
Yeah, exactly.
But it is students. So, but his journey, I think, is very touching, and also I won't reveal it, but there's a lovely little coda at the end as well, where we see that actually he's moved on yet further.
Yes.
So he's a very giving man, actually, isn't he?
His character's changed a lot, actually, throughout. I think the first run we did in Manchester, it was comical, but it didn't really have the heart. So this run we gave it a bit more heart to it, which I think audiences really appreciate.
Well, that's once again, I think that is the heart of it. That is the heart of its success. Is the fact that it's got something that it's got humanity in it.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of shows that don't. A lot of people have a lovely idea for a concept or something like that, but then they don't know how to make it say something, and it just projects the title all the way through. Yours, funnily enough, your title doesn't give anything away, but it has got heart all the way through. There are lots of lovely conceits as well, isn't there? That you have a live band who are ostensibly flatmates.
Yes. Yeah, that was always going to be a big thing for us, is that how we could use the band in a really inventive way that hadn't been done before. So they are technically our house band.
Yeah, not literally.
We've got very lucky actually with the band. Like they're all very talented. They're music students from Manchester as well, and they've been up for everything we've thrown at them. And musicians aren't very used to being put on stage,
and having lines.
Yes. But we put them on stage and we directed them. We gave them lines, and they really loved it.
I think they secretly really enjoyed it.
I think they do.
They
really do.
But they've got good musical chops, if I may say, because several of them play lots of instruments. A cello turns up quite unexpectedly, and I mean, there's a laugh in that. That's revealed from. Because it's quite a sort of rocky group, and then a classical. I'm being shorthand here, but a classical instrument turns up. We got a very good response yesterday when I went to see it, and then there's that lovely bit where the three principal characters are not in, and the band all come and sort of get very affectionate
Yes.
on the sofa, and then sing a beautiful 5-part harmony of a song that we're not expecting.
Yes.
I'd say no more, but that's so beautifully done. It knocks the audience off their feet with surprise, and it knocks the audience off their feet with actually the beautiful sound. There's a huge core of musicianship running all the way through this. So let me then turn this into the musical question. Why did you decide that your narrative should be a musical? Was that always the plan at the beginning, or did it develop into that?
So it originally started because we were part of the University of Manchester Musical Theatre Society.
Which is an excellent start.
They were looking for new writing, and us two, and the man who wrote the music for it, Callum Pearce, we just decided that we'd just give it a go, and so
it was always a musical.
It was always going to be a musical, but we just felt that as we were all three of us quite musically based, turning almost our lives, because the three characters do follow similar tracks to the three of us.
You may have preempted a question.
That we just thought, massive fun, almost turning our lives into this kind of
heightened.
They are very, very much heightened, but a
just
lovely
for your
musical.
own blood level sugars.
Yes.
And long-term physical health. Well
yes. Yeah.
Also, the musical, putting the music in it just adds to the spontaneity and just makes it so much more comical and fun.
It gives it a certain zizz, doesn't it? A bit of brio.
Yeah. And you get to learn about all the characters through their different solos, and it made it easier writing.
Yeah.
Did it really, though? In what way?
When you have a song, so we sort of listed the songs that we wanted and the progression that we wanted in between each song, and having a sort of baseline to be like, okay, in this song we're going to learn about this, and this character's going to develop in such a way, and it gave it more of a flow.
So you plotted the song in terms of plot nexus points for emotional highlighting or pushing something along, which is good, because some people just stick a song in,
We really took time to kind of find points in the narrative where we were like, why would they sing about this? And find points from then, and then build around that and kind of fill in the in-betweens, really.
Well, yeah, I remember when we first started, we were like, let's write a musical, and me and Callum, this was at the end of last year's Fringe, and we thought, what could we do? And our first idea was to write Ed Fringe the musical, which has actually already been done. It's,
by Patrick Stockwell, and Stockbridge, and I've interviewed him already. It's up there this year.
Well, I mean, I've looked at the flyer, and I think it's pretty much what we wanted to do with it.
It is a review, R-E-V-U-E, in that sense. It's very enjoyable. Anyway, that was taken.
Yeah, well, so we didn't do that. And
Just
then
as well, really,
Callum went away and read something on Sondheim and read about the music. He really got into that, I think. He really
so he's a really good singer-songwriter from Fife. So we took a lot of he took a lot of material that he had and kind of reworked it into this show, which was really good and really fun, and it was really nice reworking some of the material he had and with the lyrics and everything.
Well, I think the score is superlative, and I'm going to be honest with you, rock is not my first port of call.
Yeah.
But when it's well done and in the right piece, it works really well. And actually, I found everything very palatable to my ear. I found it was obviously buoyant for the because people were whooping in the audience in a way that I can't really let myself do. But actually, fun enough, just dismantling it in my head as it was coming through. Very, very melodic. So actually, it was covering a lot of bases at the same time. So Callum, I didn't get his surname.
Callum Pearce. Yeah.
Callum Pearce. He's got a very great talent, if I may say.
Yeah, he's a stunning musician, really.
He's our third flatmate.
It just worked so well because we just thought that his score worked so well with that narrative. They just gelled well.
Yeah.
You just, with students, you wouldn't expect them to be singing in any other kind of genre, really.
No.
So it just merged. It just merged perfectly, really.
Oh, it fits the bill perfectly, but it is a good example of it.
Yes.
I think that's what I'm trying to say, because, I've been to lots of other rock musicals. I don't shun them in any way. And they are either good, bad, or indifferent, as all human life and endeavour is. But no, yours is an excellent one. Did you say he was the third flatmate?
Yes. So we lived in a...
in real life?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But not on stage last night?
No.
So you confused me there.
Sorry. No, I meant to say that. So we started writing it. It was after one morning when we had gone out, actually. And all three of us just sat in the lounge.
So it was the method.
Yeah, we got into
very
character,
method, yes.
and we just sat in the lounge. He got his keyboard out, and we just started playing stuff. Just working around on that. Yeah,
Kind of sort of creative jam session, but
Yeah, it's
narratively as well as musically.
very much how we worked was that we worked best when all three of us were just in a room together, knocking our heads together, and
Well, that's your percussion.
so it was just really, really fun and enjoyable, and we just worked very well as a three. We just all bring something quite different to the table, I think, and that's works very well for us.
You know what you've just done there, don't you? You have set up a question. Tell me, what do you bring to the table which is different? I'm actually genuinely interested because I love collaborative work, because the results, when the collaboration is fruitful and you have some kind of symbiosis, the results are magnified. There's a kind of an accumulator thing going on. But what is it that you think you bring to the table, or would you like to describe what you think your colleague brings to the table? What is most likely to do the least damage to your working relationship?
Well, I would say Chris brings the
I've got to you next.
imagination, really. So although the amazing wacky dialogue is Chris, and the things that you just
witty, isn't
you just wouldn't think of, that is Chris really in a nutshell, and that kind of over the top kind of humour and the fourth wall jokes, that's all Chris.
Yes.
It's just a great thing.
There was a very knowing audience last night.
Yes,
It's quite.
Yeah.
Oh, do you? Okay. So Tom, what does Tom bring?
Same question to number 2, please.
Tom actually, I think he brings the organisation. I think
I'm much more. This character has to do.
He's doing it now.
Yeah. See, he's the one that does all the
He's
talking.
organising your
like,
thoughts. Yes.
This character has to be here at this point. This character has to have this kind of heightened emotion at this point and do the kind of emotional
you're
journey.
A dramaturg.
You
bring something to the narrative, which is, as you say, the organizer. You know, does it flow? Does it make sense? Do these plot points work?
Yes.
So you're more of a frameworky man. You're more of a. Tom, you're more of a frameworky man. You know, radio's quite difficult. and Chris, you're more of a kind of put the flesh on the bones kind of character. Do you agree with each other's?
I feel like I do a bit of narrative.
Yeah, which is not to suggest
well.
you don't do the others.
Yeah, well, I was actually at the beginning of my third year. I did a great course on screenwriting, which was taught by the playwright Tim Price, who's he's now one of the writers on Doctor Who, and he was very helpful in helping me just sort of.
You're talking my language.
He was very helpful in just going and sitting with him and one-to-one, and him just chatting about his career and how he works a plot, how he weaves it in, and yeah, he was very helpful actually for me. And I think then Callum, our third flammate, he obviously brings the music and the talent, really.
Oh, no, it goes together. I mean, he certainly has talent. But you clearly both have talent. As I say, this show was a step above the ordinary, and quite a big step above the ordinary. So, you know, together you are creating something, or have created something I think is very, very good. And I would have no hesitation recommending it to other people.
That's very kind, thank you.
Did you write with actors in mind? I mean, did you always know you were going to be playing Ferg?
No.
Now how interesting.
But we did always. It was always almost based on us three. So the character of Ferg was almost based pretty much entirely on me, and then it just kind of made sense when we were competing with other shows casting at the same time, and obviously a lack of male actors.
And I was directing it, and then I had to call Tom up and be like, not enough people auditioned.
You're in.
You're in. So it wasn't always going to be me, but we just thought it kind of made sense. We had a very short rehearsal time for Manchester.
We had a week.
And
yes.
I knew the songs, having written the lyrics to them.
I mean, that's part of the reason I cast you, yeah. And then
Has
also,
he lived up to your expectations?
well, also I lived with her, and it'd be a bit awkward if I had gone home. And
You
been
just tell me your milk had been stolen, yes.
Hi, Tom.
And yeah, the other two, James Ward Mallinson was always really going to be the perfect Ash. He's just fits that role. So
he's more of a stoner character.
Yes, yeah.
Certainly lethargic and non-dynamic. Although there's this lovely twist, isn't there? The fact that he clearly has been working, even though he ostensibly doesn't know what course he's on.
Yes.
The fact he just flies through and gets his masters.
Well, he's very philosophical, and he always talks about philosophy throughout, and which is very much James, actually. James has always wanted to bring up something random in conversation and be like, oh, according to this person.
Discuss.
And then it'd be like, oh, that's interesting. And then Anna, who played Sam.
Anna obviously was a very different character, and then we reworked it around her. So
she was already cast in the role.
She was cast. We cast her in the role when we cast James, and then we obviously had the Manchester run and got the feedback and decided to actually let her do a lot more of let her be a lot more her, which I think was a really good decision.
But it's quite interesting, isn't it, for an actress to be in a show and discover their character has almost been turned upside down, whilst the other characters probably haven't been so much. So that changes the dynamic of the piece completely, I imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously for the better.
I think it changed dynamic, but I think what works well is that me, James and Anna have a really good bond on stage, and so I think flipping it didn't turn it on its head too much, because
I think it shows that you guys are friends. Like there does seem to be like this warmth between them all, and they do genuinely all care about each other. And I think the actors really do show that themselves on stage.
There's an affinity, very much so.
Yeah, and I think that works off stage as well, and how we've adapted to changes, and things go wrong every night, and we seem to work through it. And there's different ad libs thrown in occasionally.
That we change and tweak. Some jokes that don't land, so we then change the next night. And I think this time round we actually rehearsed with the band. Like when we did it before, it was sort of the actors work together, then the band work together, and then come together on the night. And I think it was quite nice having the band in the rehearsal room, so that they could then throw in suggestions, be like, oh, could I try this? And we try that out, and then we cut that or change that, and they became more involved, and I think they just became much more invested, and they really enjoyed it.
Well, it also avoids disjunct, doesn't it? They are there, and it all seems very, very seamless.
Well, yeah, when I've worked on musicals before, there does seem to be a real divide, I'd say, between the musicians and the actors. And then
put them in the pit, obviously, literally, for an orchestra.
Yeah, and now that we've brought them out of the pit and we've put them on stage, they do feel very much a part of it.
And they have lines, not many, but every now and then they are offered a joke.
Yes, we thought we'd work on that. Like, they didn't really say anything in the Manchester run, but we loved them so much as a four. It's three of them continued. The drummer is new.
And you mentioned that.
We do mention that. But we just decided we just thought it'd be great fun just to heighten their personalities as well. Yeah. So they are all heightened versions of themselves again, but it's just been so much fun doing that and having the creative license to do that with the band.
And they are in character. They're not just being but they're not just playing. There's a song towards the end, and I can't remember which one it is, forgive me, but I remember the chap on keyboards, the tall gentleman at the back.
Yes.
He's sort of kicking, you see his Converses kick out of both sides of the keyboard while he's playing.
Yes.
He's obviously having his own mini environment.
Yeah, he's our MD, Pete Shaw. He's a wonderful man. He's very funny. They are actually, all the bands are putting in a really good acting job.
Yeah,
for the whole
very
hour.
Funny, and you never really get that from musicians, because usually musicians are quite quiet, and as I say, there's a divide. But I think these four, we've been very lucky to get them, because they all have their own thing. They all have their own little stuff to add to the show.
It creates an ensemble.
Yeah,
and ensembles
definitely.
When they work. Marvellous. Once again, it's that sense of everything built on everything else. You build a cohesive whole. So. And also, there very often are a lot of people living in a student house, I remember.
Yes.
So let's talk about one or two of the songs in particular. I'm going to talk about Ferg's Girlfriend song, which I think is actually stunning. And indeed was on the play-out music, I think, last night. So,
I'm glad someone heard.
over the applause and cheering. But it's a great, all the songs are great, but that is a great, great song, and a tour de force for you as a performer.
Yes.
Is it something you relish, or do you think, oh my God, internally, do you think, oh my God, I've got those names I've got to remember now? Because it's basically much of it. It has meaning and purpose, but the end part is you regaling us with a long list of mostly female names.
Yes.
Although some of them also androgynous.
Yes.
And it suggested that you will go anywhere for a couple. But that's like singing a thesaurus.
Yes.
How do you build up to it? What do you feel?
It's a great song. It's my favourite song to perform every night. It is just such fun. It did take a long time to learn the names. There's 64 in total.
Oh, there really?
Yeah. But it's just so fun, and just building up building it up each night, and you get a different reaction from every crowd. Some people cheer when they hear their name in the song.
Oh, yeah, they did last night.
Yeah. So it's just crazy, really.
But also your Speech Mark says choreography, in the sense you're jumping off a sofa all the way
yes,
through it as well,
yes. We kind of made the choreography almost funnily quite bad. It's kind of meant to be quite standard.
I didn't intend for it to be, but I thought we could get a choreographer, but I thought, well, you know what, I can just do it. I've done some dancing before, I've got some moves. And then in rehearsal period, we soon found out that I didn't know that much. But I think it just adds to the sort of nightclub vibe that we were going for, especially with the lights. We wanted it to sort of be very reminiscent of just a cheesy nightclub.
Well, it's the choreography, and I'm using the term to describe movement. You
Yes.
know, I'm not putting it. We're not talking Bob Fosse here. It looks like the character for dancing.
Yeah.
Or how I would imagine he would dancing. And also, it's a powerhouse of a song.
Yes.
So almost manic. And you are dancing manically. Jumping off a sofa is a manic move. So but once again, it's all of a whole. It works. It really, nothing is disjointed all the way through, including in that song. But I bet you're pleased when it's over, though, aren't you? Every night as well.
It is very. It's a very hot venue we're in.
Oh, I noticed. Well, forgive me. By the end of the show, at least two of the band were topless.
Yeah, yeah. So I think
Added attractions for certain people.
after that number, I think I'm reading a book in the next scene. It's always sweat dripping down into the book. But yeah, it's.
So there's a large. Because it takes place over a year, there is a Speech Marks a large costume budget. I mean, you have lots of different T-shirts.
Yes, yes. We just try and keep the costume kind of as simple as possible. I mean, we only have really the band's little interludes to whip off a T-shirt and change it, but it's just those little added extra things that just give it a bit more
But it also gives a sense of
professionalism.
progression.
Yeah.
Exactly. Coming on in a different T-shirt, ironically, super cheap, super easy to do, tells you it's 3 months later.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other ways of doing it as well.
Yeah.
It moves on to the birthday. There are other events in the year, Christmas and Valentine's Day.
Just those cheap exposition lines that just be like, okay, we've moved on, we've progressed 3 months, we're now here.
But a different shirt or a different T-shirt will carry you there. It really does. I think that's fantastic. And also, as the characters change and develop, it's also reflected in their clothing as well.
Yes,
I mean, that's
yes.
subtly. There's lots of,
Oh, we did theatre. We did a theatre degree. We studied this for 3 years. We know what to put in, all the motifs and themes.
But I can't work out if you're being ironic or not. But what I like is there is a sense as an audience that we're getting bold colours. But what we don't realise is we're seeing all the patinas as well, all the different Pantones.
Yes.
There we are.
I'm glad someone noticed. It's the small detail that counts. Well, we were doing a drama degree. You're told to just read everything. Read everything that's on stage. So, yeah, I think it is just the subtle details that they might be quite small and they might be very cheap in our case, but they do really add to the plot.
I think what we quite like about it is though there are moments in the plot where it does get quite silly and quite outlandish, is that there are those little subtle details that kind of keep it in some sort of reality.
Yeah, it's grounded.
Yeah,
it really is.
Which we quite like about it, which kind of gives it a bit more heart.
We cut, in our original run, we cut a couple of numbers that were a bit over the top.
They just went too far and kind of took it too out of place.
But
you've got to keep your audience with you, haven't you?
You have to bring it back to reality a lot. So during a song you can be very wacky and weird, but during the dialogue you need to come back and ground yourself.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on making sure that we did have to, rein ourselves back on certain things, because obviously
it has to be
when
believable.
Three of us in a room, we can, get to the characters going into outer space by the song 3. But
let me explain absolutely for anyone listening. It is not a symbol. Everything about this it feels real in that sense. So yeah, I mean you could do that, of course, as you say, but actually what you've gone for and works, and that's a mixture of the writing and the direction, is the playfulness of three friends. And that playfulness allows you then to sort of be heightened and fuller without going into the realms of, oh no, I've lost it. It doesn't jump the shark, I suppose.
Yes.
I think restricting it to just 3 characters makes it, we only have an hour.
Yeah.
And so to throwing a lots of characters...
distractions.
And you couldn't really build a character that people would get behind But the fact there's only 3, that means they can all develop in their own way, and you can all see their arc and their journey, which at the end of the show is what makes them, which is why we get such a good response, I think, because people do care and have enjoyed what they've seen.
We do. As I say, that is the interesting thing. I could feel myself being emotionally drawn into the piece. As I say, the first couple of songs, marvellous and wonderful, but you do think, oh, this is a rumbusterous reminder of what student life is, and then you start thinking, oh, look, my heartstrings are being tugged. How dare they? But you do it so carefully, you sort of creep up on us, I think, as an audience, and that's a wonderful gift. And let's talk then about some of the poignancy. Forgive me, I'm coming back to you again, Tom, here, because there is a lovely scene where you do some once again, acting. It's the one where you reveal at last a little bit of your insecurity about relationships, which you need, but you're also worried about losing. And as you say, it's sometimes that a relationship is about 2 people and not 1 person.
Yes.
And you're talking to, there's only one other flatmate in the room with you at the time, and that, if you like, is the rawest emotional moment in the show in some senses, I would say.
Yes.
I think that almost becomes the emotional lodestone around which the progression of the second half, if you like, lets us know that we're in a real world here, very much so. Do you find that, bearing in mind the character is not a million miles away from you, do you find that, how easy is it for you to reveal your own intimate self? Or is it just actually a fantastic acting job, but you've never felt any emotion like that in your life? It's not onions under the eyes, is it? You look as though you're genuinely watering in the eye.
Yeah, I mean,
I assume it's not onions.
I wanted to, but they said no. We couldn't afford it.
Yeah, I think it was always important for us in this piece to really have a lot of ourselves in it, and so
that's so revealing.
Yeah, and when we get to that bit, it is drawing on a lot of things that we, not necessarily just me, but we as the 3 have gone through, and so it is a very emotional part, but I think it's also a very important part of our show, and
it really is.
And one that
I think that is very much, what I gained from the 3 years as a student. You do realise that there is quite a lot of mental health problems between an awful lot of students. And I think
sadness for a start.
Well, yeah.
And that's part of the human condition, whether you're students or otherwise. And once again, the macro from the micro.
Yeah, exactly. We just thought that it was an extremely important thing. The fact that
you feel drained.
It is a physically and emotionally draining show. Especially from going from Beauty Lies, which is so up there, and then to Calm for a Minute, which is so almost understated and underplayed in some ways, is
it's very there's not much movement.
It's a great challenge.
Yes.
It's a great challenge.
Demanicked.
From a huge contrast, I feel, between all the songs. The first 3 songs are very manic and up, and then towards the end they just become much. There's less movement. It's just more about the lyrics itself.
More sophisticated, actually.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how you are, what a challenge it is for you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful challenge though, and one that I really relish as an actor, because you want pieces that are gonna work on your complete range almost, and it gives you such a good opportunity to do that. There's so many levels you can work on. You can work from the kind of over the top stuff to really stripping it back, and we did a lot of work in the kind of first couple of days of rehearsals of how we strip it back, because you've been doing the show up to a point of 110%, and then you need to find a way to not strip it back straight away, so it's not too jarring, but find a way to almost create a nice profile into the more emotional parts of the show.
I hope you won't think me rude. I'm not coming on to you when I say you have very expressive eyes.
Oh, yeah.
That really comes across.
Oh,
It
thank you very much.
indeed.
Thank you.
I'll give them that.
Now, what has the audience in Edinburgh taught you? Every night, an audience will always be different, won't they? They will find things that you didn't know were there, or as you say, kill things stone dead.
So some of the jokes that I put in, some of the cast members were like, this won't get a laugh. And it's quite nice to be right.
Yes.
When I'm like, I told you people would laugh. Especially the balloon line. Everyone questioned the balloon line.
What, as in the balloon's doing well?
Yes.
Which unfortunately burst last night.
But that's fine. that makes it better.
Does it?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we went
in
and
fact, it's a dead balloon to begin with. It's fantastic. It's just stuck on the wall and hangs around for a year.
We went and bought another one today.
Oh, did you really?
Well, I
audition it, but if it doesn't come up to scratch, that's really interesting. I like the fact it was a defunct balloon when we saw it. So.
The audiences have been great. I mean, it has been varied.
Different. It's been different every night.
It's been a challenge actually, because this kind of longest run we've ever done of a show. It's going to be very interesting as the run goes on, just to see the different reactions. I mean, we had one very quiet night as our second night.
And obviously, with a comedy, you expect a laugh, or you need a laugh.
You need some buoyancy to bounce off.
Yeah, and if there's no laugh, it is kind of a slug. But I think you did very well.
It was mainly getting the cast through that kind of opening scene, and once you get through that opening scene, then you get to the more kind of upbeat numbers. That once James gets into his solo nothing, then he's off and away. So
well, it's interesting, isn't it? It's exactly what I was saying. That the first few songs are a setup of atmosphere and context.
Yeah. But
the narrative really starts a little bit in. So, but the audiences are I find them very strange, and I sit in them and watch them as well sometimes. Particularly the show isn't interesting, but sometimes a British audience in particular sometimes needs license to be allowed to respond.
Yes.
Sometimes you just have to put something absolutely ridiculous right at the beginning just to get people to go ha, and then once someone's gone ha ha ha, everyone will go ha ha usually.
Yeah.
Otherwise you've got one of those audiences, if the show's worthwhile, that bottle it all up until the end and then let you know, by which time that's lovely.
Yeah, it's weird. They'll be completely. Our second night they were completely quiet, but then afterwards they were like, "Oh, we loved it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, say something. Give us a reaction."
But have they pointed to anything in the plot or the narrative or the dialogue of the songs that surprised you as the creators?
There's an interesting thing one of our friends said last night. He was questioning why it was called The Fear, because, as you say, it does set it up to be something completely different.
And it's late night, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's late night. It's an 11 o'clock show.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I think I quite like the fact that it does throw you off the scent, the title. So and then it's a surprise. It's a nice surprise, hopefully.
No, because it's a good drama in its own right. That is the point. It's a comic drama, but it's a drama.
Yes.
Yeah. And a good drama engages with the audience, and vice versa.
Yeah, well, that's what I learnt about a lot of character comedy. It comes from the characters. The characters have to be well developed for the audience to then believe the humorous situations that they then get into.
Because if you're a grotesque, you can laugh at them, but you're not laughing with them.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And these characters are not grotesques. They have, like all of us, moments of over the top performance, but they are real. They're grounded in.
I think as soon as you learn who the characters are, you then can begin to get behind what they say, and when they say stuff, you're like, that is what that character would say, and it's funny, rather than just being like, oh, let's say this, but that character would never say something like that. And a couple of lines, it just keeps changing, and you'd be like, oh, this character wouldn't say this character would say that. It'd be funny if this happened. And so yeah, I think it all comes from the comedy comes from the characters.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time working on really. I mean, you wrote those circles for each character, making sure that they each kind of hit a certain point and hit a certain. Just making sure that
I like to just doodle.
Really making sure that each of those characters is developed, and making sure that development is prevalent throughout the whole piece. So one character doesn't just disappear throughout.
I've got two questions that I'd like to ask. The first, I think, is what next for The Fear? Because surely it can't finish here in Edinburgh.
We have been having chats about it. We have been waiting to obviously see the reaction in Edinburgh. Is very important to us to kind of see.
We were a bit worried actually.
Yeah.
Last week.
we did have a moment where we're like, what if everyone hates it?
That's only natural. Luckily, it's great.
Thank you. So I think our plan is to look at licensing, getting it licensed and published, and possibly target universities, get them to do it on, and because it is such a good little show to do almost. Yeah. It's such a nice little contained show.
And can be done very cheaply, as we found out.
But it can be done as a chamber piece, in a strange way, isn't it?
Yeah. We've also had a lot of calls for an album, for a cast.
Oh, we did.
Cast album.
Well,
so
can I add my name to that?
Yes, yeah, you can. So we'll be looking into that, getting the cast to all recording and
I
everything.
guess we haven't really thought about it. We didn't think it'd be as good.
Well received.
Yeah.
But apparently it has. So
It's a
we're
good show,
chuffed.
and I would like it to have a further life.
Yes, thank
Whether
you
it
very
be
much.
here in Edinburgh next year or somewhere else, or as you say, in universities. But please, yes, if there is an album, do let us know. Would you work again together?
I think we always want to, don't
Yeah.
we?
I think we've got through
A
it.
lot of sucking of teeth there. I
Well,
think.
we've had ups and downs.
But any dynamic relationship must.
Mainly ups.
Yeah. We have to disagree because I think we all very. We all really want the show to do well, and we all have visions of what is best for the show, and so there's always stuff that we're not going to agree on. But I think we do work very well as a three. We're very good at pushing each other and getting the best out of each
I think
other.
we all bring our own thing, and that really helps. Because I think I'll just have some ideas, but then it's you that brings them down, and then Callum that sort of adds to it. And it's nice to have more opinions in the writers' room rather than just one opinion, and then you don't really get to know until the night of
Well,
the
it's
show.
exactly as you were saying earlier. You bring different things to the table, and therefore, this is a really trite thing to say, but a pizza just covered in tomato, whilst edible, is not what you want. You want a pizza covered in tomato from you, and a bit of cheese from you, and pepperoni from someone else, or whatever. I labour that excessively, I think. But and they do come in different sizes as well. But seriously, it becomes a more appetising piece.
Yeah, I think we work well. We almost work like a writer's room in the fact that we will write individually, but then we'll come together and really go through it with a fine-tuned tooth comb.
Oh, we're not afraid to critique. That's something I realise.
Yeah, actually, fun enough, within a writer's room concept, whether it be a real room or just in the creative bubble, you have to be honest, don't you? You have to obviously not kick people in the teeth. But honesty is the only way you get something better out of it.
I'll be like, how about this? And he'll be like, that's not funny. We'll be like, okay, we'll kill that.
I think
then.
that's where our friendship works well, because we're not afraid to
You're strong enough.
We're strong enough to talk to each other and let each other know.
And my last question for you then, gents, is when the dust has settled, what will you take away from the fear?
Well, it's been a great experience, hasn't it? I think this is the first thing we've written. Well, you've written a play by yourself before, but it's the first thing I've written. It's been a fantastic experience, both as a creative and as a actor. Just kind of to take away from it is to look to do more and to build on it. As you said, hopefully it will have a life after Edinburgh. So hopefully once Edinburgh finishes, we'll continue working on it.
For me, I think maybe, I don't know if this is cliche, just the confidence it did give me in terms of it was just an idea we had after a night out, and it's quite weird how after it's now progressed and we're here at the Fringe and we're doing 13 shows, and it's bizarre looking back, but it's like, well, everything just starts an idea, and you can just, if you run with it and have the confidence, you can just take it somewhere.
Brilliant. Gentlemen, it's been lovely talking to you.
Thank you very much.
It's a 5-star show in my opinion.
Thank you so much.
I would like to see your next 5-star show.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Musical Talk. And there we are. There's Chris Pope and Tom Carswell talking about The Fear. And it really was a marvellous show. As I said before, I gave it 5 stars and called it a hilarious and poignant must-see. And there is perhaps a chance of must-seeing it, because I understand the show is being developed, with a chance of a future iteration and future production. And I really hope that does turn out to be the case, because it was one of those shows I thought had real legs. It won me over completely, and rather splendidly turned out to be very much more humane than perhaps you thought it was going to be when you went in. And that's clever writing. Well, that's it for this week of Musical Talk. Do join us again next week when there'll be something completely different. Musical Talk is very much like online shopping from your supermarket, very much more popular this year than it's ever been before. You think you know what you're going to get, but occasionally it serves you up a surprise. And we all like surprises, don't we? Don't we? Well, maybe we don't. But hopefully you will enjoy what comes up next week here on Musical Talk. Until then, however, it's time for me to say goodbye. And in the time-honoured tradition, I'm going to do that by making a sound out of my mouth. And it's going to sound exactly like this. Goodbye. This episode of Musical Talk edited and presented by Thos. Copyright Musical Talk 2020. To find out more about the world of Musical Talk and listen to past episodes, go along to our website www.musicaltalk.co.uk or subscribe to us on iTunes and follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Musical Talk Thos.
Recording, but I'm going to ask you first of all just to give me a level or so. I mean, it's slightly guerrilla, so it's almost academic because it'll get louder and quieter, but you know, it is what it is. That's Edinburgh. Do you just want to give me some random words from the top of your head? This should be interesting.
Rubber ducks love swimming and eating bread all the time.
Do you know they do? Thank you.
And what, I have to say something now?
Yeah, yes, please. Just a level.
Well, I don't think I can top that. I'll just say duck, rubber. I've gone for the same thing.
Yeah.
Really.
Anyway, a very saucy conversation for you both. Thank you. So I've got a little gauge here, so I won't always be making eye contact, but that's about right. It'll do. So the way we'll start, if I may, is I'll ask you both to give me your full names, your involvement in the show, and one of you at least should mention the show.
Yeah.
So that's sort of important. Sort of take it from there. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
I'm sorry to sort of rush straight into it, but you know,
It's fine,
spontaneity and all that. In your own time, who wants top billing?